Hi everyone. Today we're going over the latest court documents in the Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger case. We're mainly going to look at the activities of the roommates, DM and BF, before, during, and after the 1122 King Road crime. Some new info has been released in connection to that, and also some random tidbits that I think are worth discussing. So that's what's on the menu today. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any updates in the Idaho 4 case, and let's dive right in. All the documents, as always, are linked in the description box below. So the gist of the first document that we're going to be covering is the following. Judge Hippler gives his verdict on which parts of the text between the roommates, Dylan and Bethany, and which parts of the 911 call should be admitted and which parts should be excluded. But we went over the texts and the call already, so we're not going to do that again. We're just going to focus on the new stuff that has been revealed in these latest documents. For example, the following. We learned that after spending the evening out, Maddie, Kaylee, Bethany, and Dylan returned to 1122 King Road in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. So the way I'm understanding this, and based on what we learned previously, what was in the PCA and so on, Maddie and Kaylee were out separately, right? We know that they were at the grub truck, at the corner club, and we don't know if Dylan and Bethany were together, like out together, or if they were out separately with some other friends. But either way, at approximately 2 a.m., the four of them, Maddie, Kaylee, Dylan, and Bethany, went up to Kaylee's room on the 3rd floor and talked a little bit. Xana, who was out with Ethan, was allegedly not home yet. And see, this is a little bit different from what is written in the PCA. In the PCA, according to Bethany, all the roommates, which would include Xana, were home by 2 a.m. So I guess it's still unclear when exactly Ethan and Xana got home. And I guess it's possible that they came home, so they went to the party where Bethany saw them, came home, went to the party again, and then came home again, because the Sigma Chi house was literally just, 2 minutes walk across the street and then around the corner. So anything is possible, considering that it's been well over 2 years and we still don't know when exactly the victims got home or where they were at what point in time. You know what? Nothing surprises me anymore. So either way, the four roommates that are hanging out in Kaylee's room, they are now debating if they should go out for some food. And let's slowly unpack this. So Maddie and Kaylee just returned home a few minutes ago. It would have been around, 5-10 minutes ago. They returned home from the grub truck where they got food. I don't know how likely it is that the two of them would be getting food again, but let's presume they really enjoyed the food they had at grub truck, and now they're telling all of this to Dylan and Bethany, and now the two of them are hungry and they're like, okay, we want some of that delicious grub truck food too. Now, to be fair, the document doesn't specify the grub truck, it just says that they were debating going out to a food truck to get some food, so maybe it was some other food truck in downtown Moscow. But either way, the way I'm understanding this is that probably it was Dylan and Bethany that wanted to get some more food, not necessarily Maddie and Kaylee, but that doesn't seem to be too relevant at this point because we really don't have any more context. So what happens next at 2:10 a.m., DM texts an Uber driver, EG, to inquire if he's driving. And the reason for that text is because they wanted to go out and get some food. So EG seems to be the same person that just dropped off Maddie and Kaylee 15 minutes ago at this point. So, okay, I can kind of see how this would maybe make sense because maybe Dylan is asking, okay, are you still driving? You know, was this your last ride for the night? Are you still working this evening, this night? So I can kind of see how this would make sense, even though it is a little bit strange because he had just dropped off two roommates and Dylan and Bethany are just now talking to the roommates who probably told them who dropped them off. I don't know. This whole situation is just very weird. The whole crime is weird, but that's besides the point. Ultimately, though, the roommates decided against getting food and they just went to bed, allegedly. But we know that they're not sleeping yet because we have a ton of activity from all of them. Kaylee and Maddie are calling JD, Jack Decor, from roughly 2:22 to 2:52 a.m. Dylan makes a new contact in her phone at 3:51 a.m. And we know that Maddie called Bethany. This call, it was suspicious to me before when I first read about it, and it's even more suspicious now. I just really want to know what the reason for the call was, because they had just talked. Now that we know that they just talked, Maddie and Bethany and the other two, minutes ago, face to face, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Either way, the document then skips to 4 a.m. when Dylan is awoken by strange noises and crying from the bathroom. The bathroom bit is new information. We haven't heard that before. In the PCA it says that Dylan allegedly heard crying coming from Xana's room, but not from the bathroom. So I'm gonna assume this is the second floor bathroom. How exactly Dylan knew it was from the bathroom, maybe because of the echo, you know how it is in the bathrooms, is a different kind of echo. But I don't know what to do with this information at this point, honestly. Then DM, she hears all this weird stuff happening. She tries calling and texting all the roommates, one after the other. Ultimately, she talks to Bethany, she texts with Bethany, and Bethany tells her to come over, come downstairs. And Dylan eventually runs downstairs to Bethany's room. And this is sometime after 4:28 and before 4:32. Now, as DM is running, she notices something. She sees Xana on the floor, feet towards the door, head towards the wall. And she thought at that point that Xana was just passed out drunk, so she didn't do anything. Okay, so we learn here that Xana's door was wide open, at this point at least, the door of her bedroom. But secondly, and that's the more important question, I think, you hear crying, strange noises, music, dog barking. You hear and see a stranger in your house. You're scared out of your mind. Then you go downstairs and you notice one of your roommates who was not responding to your calls or texts. She's now lying on the floor, not moving, not responding. And even though you think she's only drunk, you don't check on her, because that alone could potentially be dangerous if someone is passed out drunk. But see, now, if the reasoning is you're too scared to go check on her, you're too scared to stop because you want to keep running, because you're worried who might be in the house, what might be happening, then isn't that all the more reason to call someone, to alert someone to the fact that something strange is happening in your home, and not wait, 8 hours before you act? I don't want to be too harsh on the roommates, I really don't. But the more information that comes out about how they acted that night, the less sense it all makes. So between 5 and 6:30, DM is on her phone, active on her phone. She's creating pictures and videos. She's editing them, deleting them. What exactly those pictures and videos are, we don't know yet. She's on social media again at around 8, and then at 10 she's contacting Maddie and Kaylee again, and she finds it strange that they're not up yet because they were early risers. BF is also on her phone. There's a lot going on, basically, with the two of them. And here we get to even more interesting things. So finally, at around 11:50, DM calls a friend, EA, calls her over because she would like her to check the house because she's scared, she being DM. EA shows up with her boyfriend, HJ, so Hunter Johnson, and what happens is DM, BF, and Hunter, they walk up the stairs to the second floor. When they reach the second floor, Hunter goes to the kitchen to grab a kitchen knife. DM and BF see Xana again, even though for a split second. And then Hunter Johnson comes back and he's telling them to get out. He ushers all of them out of the house, down the stairs and out of the house. He's pale and scared, and he's saying something about an unconscious person and telling them to call 911. So you notice how everything that I just described allegedly happened before the 911 call. But what happens during the 911 call seems to be more or less the same thing, like the exact same scenario happening again. Because, again, the roommates plus the people who are in the house, the friends that came over, they call 911, they talk to the dispatcher, they go up the stairs, they look into Xana's room, they call Xana's name, we hear Hunter calling her name. Then Hunter comes running back saying, get out, get out, get out. and they're all getting out again. Hunter ushered the girls out of the house once already, 5-10 minutes ago, because he saw something alarming, and now they're kind of doing the same thing again. Why not, when they called 911, why didn't they just give the phone to Hunter so he could explain what he just saw? Because if he came running out of the house, he was all pale and scared, then he clearly saw something more than just an unconscious Xana. This situation is just so bizarre. Let me know what you guys make of it, because this is... I don't even know. I don't know anymore. So let's go to the next document. This one deals with expert testimonies. They list a few experts that are going to be testifying and where the defense has some problems with what they're going to be testifying about because of their expertise or what kind of info they provided or didn't provide, what kind of work they did on the case or didn't do on the case. So here we're just going to go over some of these experts where we learn something relevant. There's a forensic scientist from the ISP lab called Miss Ayers. She worked on collecting the evidence from Brian Kohberger's apartment, from his office in Pullman, and then she also worked at the 1122 King Road crime scene. So she's basically going to be talking about evidence collection, what they collected, what they didn't. In a footnote, we learn that mattresses and bed frames were not collected from the King Road house, and she will testify as to why, among other things. And she will also be explaining why certain areas of the house were focused on as opposed to others when they were collecting evidence. The mattress thing, I don't have much to say about that because honestly I don't know if this is standard or not to take the mattress or not into evidence, but we did see that they collected the mattresses to drive them away. To the best of my research, on January 6th, 2023, which would have been about 8 weeks after the crime. But more importantly, in regards to the rooms in the house that they focused on and which they didn't focus on, what I think they might be implying here is maybe they didn't really check the first floor because the victims were only on floors 3 and 2. And this is just a guess. I don't know if they didn't or if they did check the first floor for evidence. But you see, now I'm also wondering... I'm wondering if maybe the police were calling this a targeted attack from pretty much the beginning of the investigation, because it was only people on certain floors that were targeted. Because 2 of the 3 floors were targeted, but the third one was left completely undisturbed. And that's what led the police to this conclusion, targeted attack. But see, that would also imply that whoever did this knew the crime scene, knew the house, knew the layout of the house, knew where certain people were staying in the house, where their bedrooms were. And considering, no connection between Brian Kohberger and the victims, I don't know. I digress. Next expert would be Nick Ballance. And as I said, I'm gonna wait here. I just want a clear picture before on this whole situation before I share any comments or dive into this specific topic, because now we just kind of have the state and the defense going like this, ping pong, and I just want to know what's the truth. Are the records supposed to be there or not? Did they know? Did they not? Who knew? Who didn't know? That's all I'm interested in, so I'm just gonna wait for that to become apparent. Then we have the Barnhards, who are going to testify in regards to Brian Kohberger's PC activities. Next is Douglas. He will testify in regards to Brian Kohberger's spending habits, and apparently there are some inconsistencies there in regards to how he used his credit card or his debit card. I don't know yet how relevant this will end up being, but I guess we'll see. Dawson is another expert. He will testify on the fact that Maddie was apparently so drunk that she was not able to effectively fight back. Then there are 3 forensics experts who will talk about the digital devices. So they checked the victims, the roommates, and Brian Kohberger's digital devices, so everything from laptops, computers, tablets, whatever they may have had. And they will testify to the fact that there is no connection between Kohberger and the victims. Then there's another expert who will give his opinion on the suspect vehicle number 1 and the front license plate, where you can see it, where you can't see it, and if that was relevant or how that may have been relevant if the license plate was there or not. There's also going to be an Amazon expert, but there isn't anything relevant there mentioned as of yet. However, we are getting to something interesting now. Remember how at the latest hearing, Ann Taylor mentioned that the defense has an expert who will apparently testify that there were potentially 2 perpetrators?
Your Honor, we have produced an expert that believes that it's likely that there were 2 people, 2 weapons.
Well, this expert appears to be Brant Turvey. He will testify that there is direct and indirect evidence that shows that the suspect or suspects tried to clean up the crime scene, so that means it would have taken them longer, and there were multiple weapons used on Kaylee, and Ethan and Xana appear to have been attacked at the same time. Okay, so we still don't know what weapons exactly were used, if a K-bar was even used, but we know now that there were multiple weapons used on at least one of the victims. And Xana and Ethan being attacked at the same time, that is potentially very interesting. I really wonder how they'll explain this or how they'll argue this case. This could imply that whoever did this had the forethought, so they anticipated who will be in the house. They anticipated that one of the people there is going to be a tall, athletic, strong young male. And they had the forethought of making sure they have someone who could incapacitate him, who could focus. They knew that they needed someone who could focus on Ethan specifically. Just my speculation, to be clear. But yeah, this could make some more sense this way. The state also have an expert, Gilbertson, who performed a test to determine how quickly the crimes could have been committed. Now, the defense doesn't really like this because the expert allegedly didn't properly disclose his methodology, how he conducted the test. But they're also butthurt because they can't replicate this test now because the house is no longer there. And honestly, to that, look, both the defense and the state agreed to tear down the house. No one should be crying over this now. 2.5 years later. No one should be complaining because you both agreed. So I have absolutely no understanding for either side now coming forward and being like, well, we don't have the house now to do this, that, and the other. You agreed to tear it down. You had no objections. So anyway, on this, the judge says, yeah, this is potentially fodder for cross-examination, but I'm not going to limit this. Gilbertson can testify to his thing. Lastly, we have Brian Kohberger's diagnosis, autism spectrum diagnosis, and striking the DP. And I'm going to be very brief on this one because I basically covered most of that when it first came out in the original documents. But here they are basically going over and discussing how mild or how severe Kohberger's autism is, in which ways it manifests, and if it really makes him that incapable of committing the crimes as quickly as they were allegedly committed, if the jury could, be prejudiced against him, and so on and so forth. And if this is enough to strike the DP or not. One of the interesting new details that we learn here is that Brian Kohberger is apparently very smart. He has an IQ of 119, so he's very intelligent, but he is neurodivergent, so the autism, even though it's the mildest form, it affects him to a certain degree. They give a few examples, of his overly formal speech, of his vocabulary. I don't know, it really, to me, from the beginning, this has just seemed like the defense was reaching a little bit. It's a little bit of a stretch, in my opinion. Anyway, this is it for the 3 latest major documents in the Idaho 4 case. Thank you for sticking around till the end, and do let me know your thoughts in the comments below, because this case is a wild one. I'll be seeing you soon with new updates, so don't forget to like and subscribe. And until then, take care. Bye, guys.